and welcome to another episode of Upward Trajectory. Today I'm so excited to have with us Keli Calderon. She is the founder of the Smart Money Academy, and it is an educational system to teach finance issues and all that go with it to kids, and which is so needed right now. Thank you so much, Keli, for being on.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to get to talk to you.
I am too, and I'd love to hear your backstory on how you got to this point where you're teaching finance to kids.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the beginning of our marriage, actually while we were dating, my husband and I loved to go shopping with credit cards. That was date night.
Oh no.
Yes. I mean, we had no idea what we were doing and the effects that it was going to have. And then, of course, you know, we had our student loans and we had to get cars and all that stuff. And before we knew it, we were incredibly in debt, really, really struggling. We went through a bankruptcy at one point. Several years after that, we had a car repossessed. Several years after that, we were still paycheck to paycheck. And it just, the stress was unbelievable. And we really had to stop and just take a look in the mirror and be like, okay, we caused this problem. We have to clean up the mess. We have to change our habits. We have to get a hold of this. And so we did. We went through a process. We paid off $80,000 of debt in 2 years.
Oh, wow.
And we have been living debt-free since about 2012, other than our home. And it just, what a life change. It's just been a huge, huge shift. So that kind of got me set on those, you know, the passion of personal finance and teaching other people like, oh my gosh, this can be done. Even if you've made a huge mess, this can, you know. And then also at the same time, during that whole process, I was a classroom teacher. And so it was a really good opportunity to kind of marry my two passions of teaching and personal finance and just kind of get the next generation set on the right path before they've made all those mistakes that I made.
Yeah, and that's a good point because there's, you know, probably kids with parents making these exact same mistakes. And who do we learn finance from? We learn from our parents. And the national average and the national debt per household is just, it's growing and growing and it's getting massive. And like you said, you can really get into these, it snowballs. And if you're not careful and you're not diligent about it, you know, before you know it, it becomes this insurmountable thing that you just don't know what to do. And the stress and the weight of that is just always there. So I love that you've taken this and you're like shifting it and saying, okay, we need to teach kids this because they need to come out once they start earning money and be able to handle the money the right way and make the right decisions. So can you tell me a little bit about what you teach them and some little tips and tricks that you have?
Yeah, sure. So a lot of what I do is game-based. It's kind of like a life simulation thing. They earn a paycheck by doing silly little things. And then they have to go pay all their expenses. And of course, there's no money left because welcome to real life, right? So eventually in the game, they get to start investing and earning passive income. And they win the game when their passive income surpasses their expenses. In other words, they no longer have to work. And that's when the light bulb goes on for them. Like, oh my gosh, I can choose not to do whatever dumb job she's going to come up with for this round. And so it's very powerful. And I'm teaching them to leverage the one asset that they have right now in their life, which is time. Really is to, you know, take advantage of the time. I teach them about compound interest and starting as early as possible. And then we go through a lot of vocabulary. What are assets and liabilities? What is appreciation and depreciation and things like that? So they come out with a really strong vocabulary so they understand what people are talking about when they hear these terms. And just learning like what are the habits that millionaires use to get to where they are. So.
Yeah, and this reminds me of the marshmallow study. And I don't know if you know the marshmallow study.
Yes.
You're nodding your head. But just, you know, kids, it's so hard for them to defer, you know, the now and, you know, the indulgence of the now for something that would be better later. And this is all about that. And it's something, it's a crucial skill that we need to teach. But the marshmallow study, just to kind of give you the listeners and the viewers, the background of it is, this was, I think, back in the 70s or the 80s that this study took place, where they would allow a kid to, they give them a marshmallow, a small little marshmallow, and they say, you know what, you can have this marshmallow right now if you want it. But if you wait 10 minutes, and I think it was a really short time, it was 8 to 10 minutes, then you can have 2 marshmallows. And the overwhelming majority of the kids could not wait. They wanted the marshmallow now. They couldn't defer their happiness for 10 minutes or 8 to 10 minutes. And it's truly a skill that we need to learn and we need to infuse. And I love that your game teaches that and has that aha light bulb moment for the kids to say, wow, if I can just have this reserve and understand that what's coming is so much better than what I could get now, that's worth it.
Yeah.
Make that
Absolutely.
connection.
Absolutely. The number one skill I ask parents to work on when the kids are little, and even starting very little, is to start saving, because that goes with that marshmallow study, right? Of deferring happiness, and it needs to be fun. They need to be saving for something exciting that when they get to their goal, they get to have it. But it's really a muscle that they need to practice using and exercise it and get that habit going before they are given a large amount of money to manage, really.
Yes, and unfortunately, we are moving more and more and more to instant gratification, and it's that deferred happiness that we need to keep instilling, and we need to make a conscious effort of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's hard because that involves us telling our kids no, and that's hard.
It's hard, yes, and it's hard for ourselves too. I mean, I will, get on Amazon just like anybody else and say like, oh, I can have this tomorrow. Great, click, buy. And it's wonderful. But I have to realize consciously that, this is not real world. And there's other things that I consciously delay getting for the reason of that I need to instill that continually in myself.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's a great skill to have.
So I'm curious too, I know that your whole company is founded around the kids, but I'm curious, you yourself paid off $80,000 in debt in 2 years. And I know there's so many people out there who are in a similar situation you used to be in. How did you do that?
So we followed the Dave Ramsey program. And really, his program is all about, the more you sacrifice, the sooner you get there. And we were, we'd already done years and years and years of living this way. And so we were willing to sacrifice whatever it took to get there quickly. So we did some serious cutting. I mean, we sold our cars and we ended up buying cash cars, just little junker cars that will get us back and forth to work, but we paid off the debts that went with the cars. We canceled cable. We reduced every bill that we could find. We were on a very strict budget, which included $50 to eat out every month. That was it. The four of us a month.
Oh my goodness.
So it was painful. Like my friends would go out and I couldn't go with them and things like that, but we got it done within 2 years because we were willing to sacrifice so much. So it was tough. No vacations, no traveling, no eating out, very strict budget.
And line by line through your entire spend and budget, and what can you cut and how much can you cut? Wow.
Yeah.
That's an extreme. That's an extreme. Yeah. But, maybe somebody that is just saying, well, I maybe don't want to go to that extreme, but just do you have any tips on, the biggest bang for your buck that they could start with?
I would put every extra dollar that you can into the lowest credit card. And for us, this worked. And the reasoning behind this is that the sooner you get that paid off, what you're doing is you're getting some momentum going. You're getting a positive feedback of, oh my gosh, I got that credit card paid off. Now I can tackle the next one. And so you take that payment and that extra money that you were putting towards the next card, and you just keep tackling them, lowest balance up to the top. And it feels really good to be able to check something off. Oh my gosh, we got rid of that card, or we got rid of that payment. So that's how I would suggest doing it, just because it feels really good. If I start with the largest card, it's going to take so long to get there. I might get discouraged along the way.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Celebrate those little things. Maybe not by going out to eat or spending money, but just, a celebration at home with, what you got on hand, and make a special dinner that night or something like that.
And I think it's really important to have a goal in mind. Like, know what you're working for. That's, if you know your why, that definitely keeps you right. You can go back to that reminder when you want to quit. Like, oh yeah, this is what I'm going for. This is what I'm working for.
Absolutely. So to shift back to kids again.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of parents out there that are curious, like, allowances. Should you give an allowance? Should they get a bank card? That kind of thing. What are your recommendations on that?
I have a lot on this. Allowance, I think that kids absolutely need to have money that they can manage on their own and practice managing it and mismanaging it, because really, I feel like we have to make a certain number of mistakes in life before we get it down. And I'd rather kids be doing that at a younger age than when they're young adults and they're mismanaging large amounts or with their rent money or something like that. However, how they get there, I really believe that kids should be earning that money, whether it be chores around the home or extra jobs that they pick up here and there. And I know every family has a different feeling on family chores and contributing to the house. But I just feel like there's nowhere else in life where people just hand you money for existing and for breathing, right? So I feel like so I definitely feel like that money should be earned in some way, so that they have an opportunity to manage it. And then I forgot the second half of your question, but
maybe a little bit older cards, but getting a card, yes.
Yes. So kids need to have practice handling cash before they are given a card. And I know the world wants to move more virtual, and especially with the idea of germs and viruses and things like that, it's a little bit scary, right? Handling cash, but younger minds don't have the ability to make the connection between the number in my bank account means that I have this much money. Like they need that practice of taking their dollars to the store and buying the pack of gum and understanding, a very concrete understanding that money can be held in your hand and exchanged for something else. And then once they understand that, once they get to the point of abstractly understanding that, okay, the number in the bank account means that many dollars, then, and even though I don't have it in my hand, it's still mine, then they can start getting to the point, where they have a bank account. I would not encourage a checking account until the point that they have a job and they have kind of a regular flow in and flow out of money.
Okay.
That's kind of my take.
Great. Is there anything else that you'd like to add in terms of, I guess, is this curriculum available for individuals to use to teach their kids, or do you have this how is it set up that you teach it?
So I have kind of a three-prong approach. For the younger kids, I teach live. Now, whether that be in person or online, but I just feel like the younger ones, so like 9 and up, they need that live interaction. So 9 to 15-ish, I prefer to do, in live. And then I have a teen course that is totally online, video-based. They can do that on their own timing. It's too hard to get teens into one room at the same time on the same day. So I put that course online, self-paced. And then I have a small parenting course online that is video-based. And then I also do parenting, speeches or, seminars and things like that. So kind of I kind of hit all the different levels in different ways, but yeah, that's try to hit them where they're at and where they're available.
Yeah, well, I love what you're doing, and I cannot advocate enough for this. I think it absolutely should be included in schools, and why it's not is just mind-boggling to me. I think it could just be an adjunct each year into math, and they could kind of grow each year in terms of personal finance and learning this stuff in school. But since they're not doing that, I'm so glad that you have identified that gap and that you're doing it.
Thank you. Thank you. I enjoy doing it. I love it.
Well, thank you. And if somebody's interested in learning more and maybe joining your course, how would they go about finding you and doing that?
Yeah, I am on the web. My website is thesmartmoneyacademy.com. And pretty much everything is there. I'm also on Instagram and Facebook, and those are both also thesmartmoneyacademy.com. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Keli, for being on today. I learned a lot. I'm so glad you're doing this. I'm going to get my kids back involved in this again. We started it, and then this whole COVID thing happened, and we need to get back on it too. So thank you so much for doing what you do. And please reach out to Keli. What she's doing is phenomenal. And I'm sure your kids can benefit greatly from her mistakes and what she's turned that into now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you. And please join us again for another episode of Upward Trajectory soon. Thanks for being here.